Morning, my name's Russ McKenzie. I'm an employee here at the Ingham County Circuit Court. I'm assigned to friend of the court as a court services officer. I've got a variety of roles, but today I'm pleased to be able to present this short presentation. I refer to it as Understanding an Introduction to Friend of the Court. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'm hoping that we generate a lot of questions. This presentation is oriented to kind of how, what the role of friend of the court is in the community, and kind of give a basic understanding, a little introduction as to how cases are generated and how the system works. So we'll start with what is child support. Child support is simply financial assistance paid by a parent to help meet the needs of the child when the parent is not living in the home with the child. That can be where a child lives part-time with both parents. Typically it's based on the number of overnights. So the parent with the fewest number of overnights would be considered the non-custodial parent. And typically that's where child support, some amount is assessed, and where earned income is one of the factors taken into consideration. It can be initiated within the court through a divorce or paternity action. It can result from a child custody action, a family support action. Typically those will sometimes come from Department of Health and Human Services, either through Child Protective Services or as a result of the paternity case. It can be a transfer case. We have about 26,000 child support cases here in Ingham County, and many of them are interstate, where one parent lives here in Michigan and the other parent lives out state. Child support cases can result as a direct request from one of the parents or both parents as a result of a custody determination, parenting time, visitation, etc. Child support monies, payments are intended to be for the benefit of the child, and by that we refer to it as a balance in the home life of the child. It provides the child with a consistent standard of living regardless of which parent exercises custody or parenting time. So if my partner and I have a child, I'm not living in the home, and I'm making more than my partner, which is typically the case for as much progress as we've made here in the United States or in the state of Michigan. 99 times out of 100, the father is going to make more money than the mother. Eventually, we're hoping that'll get balanced out in terms of equal work for equal pay, but right now that's not the reality. So typically, I will end up paying some portion, even if she's working, to help balance that out, so that the child doesn't notice a change in income or a change in lifestyle depending on which parent the child is with for a particular period of time. What child support is not. It is not punishment for fathering a child. It's not punishment for a child or for I as a father not being with or not living with the mother of the child. It's not pro-female. It's not anti-male. It's monies that are designed and ordered by the court for taking care of the child, that balancing of the income level between the two homes. It's not intended to cover all expenses. Children have a variety of needs and interests. My kids played softball. They played soccer. I had daughters. One of them was into baton twirling. One was into gymnastics. There's a lot of activities. So the court really hopes and focuses on both parents being actively involved and sharing those expenses for extracurricular activities. Child support's determined, these are guidelines that are established by the Supreme Court. And that includes the U.S. Supreme Court under the federal laws called Title 4D. It's USC 666, Title 4D, covers and it establishes the rules for child support and how things are going to be determined. The state of each of the 50 states has joined with the Internal Revenue Service and Social Security Administration to develop guidelines for how payments or what my child support order might look like and how it's determined. They've generated a software application where that information gets plugged in. It's based on monthly net income of both parents and the amount of time that the child spends with each parent. By amount of time, it's based on the number of overnights. How many nights my child is actually with me and how many overnights, how many nights that the child spends with the mother. If a parent is unemployed, the calculation for child support can include what's called an imputation. Imputation is very simply an extensive term for plugging figures into the software, and by that it's what the parent is capable of earning. Each area, each region in a state has kind of an identified standard of living. Here in Lansing, typically in Ingham County area, wages, unless I've got a job where I'm on salary, I may be working in construction. I could be working for anything from $9.50 an hour up to $17 or $18 an hour. If I've got a bachelor's degree in a particular field, the system will take into consideration what I'm capable of earning within the confines of my education, my prior employment history, and what a job typically pays in this area based on my education. Child support is determined. It can take the form of cash assistance. It can be medical support through Medicaid and may include child care expenses. Michigan law requires that the circuit court, the family court, to order one or both parents to obtain and maintain health care at a reasonable cost. And that reasonable cost is no more than 6% of my gross income. So if I'm making for every $100, 6% would be $6 for every $100 that I earn. So if I'm earning $1,000 each week, that could be payable up to $60. If health care is not available through an employer, and that's typically where the court will look first, if Blue Cross, Aetna, Humana, McLaren, pick a healthcare provider. If my employer covers the cost of healthcare, then I'm required to put my child on my healthcare. If both parents have healthcare, then each parent is responsible to put the child on that health insurance. If health care is not available through the employer, the child is eligible for Medicaid, and there's some reimbursement cost paid by the non-custodial parent. Right now, that cost varies. I've seen it on average between $15 and about $40 a month. What the parent's obligation is, the court, Michigan law, as well, actually federal law and Michigan law require certain things of each parent. When the child support order is initiated, it's signed by the judge. It gets mailed out to both parties. Each parent has the opportunity to disagree with the court's order, and they have 21 days to file an amendment or a request for a review. The formal documentation is an objection to the order. So if I disagree with the amount that the court has ordered me to pay, or I disagree with the amount of overnights that were configured in the child support order, I have 21 days to file an objection, and then the court has, I believe it's another 14 to 21 days to initiate the requisite hearings. They send out a notice. I have to provide, any documentation that would support my objection, or if the other parent files, they have to provide documentation that supports their objection, and then that opens up for the potential for additional hearings before an equitable order can be decided. But in any regard, once I'm subject to that court order, if anything changes, I have 21 days from the date of that change to notify a friend of the court so that the database can be updated. If I change employment, if I change my address, if my phone number, my contact information changes, and most importantly, if there is a change in my physical status that will impact my ability to work, I have 21 days to make that notification, and I must provide medical documentation. So if I'm injured at work, if I'm injured in a slip and fall, if I'm injured in an auto accident, whatever, or I become ill, I contract COVID and I'm not going to be able to work for a particular period of time, I'm obligated to contact the court. And even though the order says within 21 days, it's really best if I reach out to the court as soon as I can, contact my caseworker, make sure they know, and provide the medical documentation that supports that. It's also my obligation under the order. I have to make a payment each month. If there's income withholding, that's great. The court and my employer can collaborate and work together so that the child support payments automatically come out of my check. It's still my obligation, though, to make sure that the amount that is coming out of my check equals the amount that is ordered by the court. So if I'm ordered to pay $150 a month in child support, and it's coming out of my check, I can't automatically assume that that whole $150 is going to come out. If I'm an hourly employee and I've got an off week, and so they take out less, I have to always review my check stubs or work with my employer or reach out to the court, to my caseworker, to make sure that the right amount is being paid each month. The income withholding can be made as a direct payment with my employer, or it can be made in person, or there is the ability to make payments online. If there's a need to contact a caseworker, they can be reached at our main line. Because we have 26,000 cases here in Ingham County. Each caseworker has a little over 2,200 cases. It's pretty difficult for them to take a lot of direct calls. So to contact them, go through the 6103 number. It's a main Centrex line. It gets routed to their voicemail, and they are mandated here to return the call, typically within 24 hours. If they're going to be out of the office for 48 hours or longer, there's an alternate caseworker assigned to pick up those messages to make sure that we're able to reach back out and contact the individuals affected. to research the friend of the court. If you've got questions, there's downloadable documents. COVID really altered how we operated here at the court. The State Court Administrative Office through the Michigan Supreme Court gave us the opportunity to post more documents online so they could be filled out, they could be completed, and then submitted electronically back to the court so that we were able to not adversely impact clients, still able to serve the public, but help cover their safety and not increase their ability to be exposed to the virus. We're able to, you could file these forms online and the court will process them. I, on the other hand, provide my personal number. This rings right into my desk. My caseload is a little different from the other caseworkers here. So if you have a specific question about a case, you could call me directly and I'd be able to confirm identity and be able to answer those questions for you. I think that pretty well goes through. I'm open to questions. It went a little faster than I had anticipated.
If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box or the Q&A.
Questions? Friend of the court's not, it can be a complicated process. It can be a complicated system. We try to simplify it best we can. We try to go out of our way to make it as user-friendly and as understandable as we can. However, it's still a court, and courts require documentation and verification, and that's why we have so many forms, and sometimes that's why things take a couple, 3 days, particularly to process those documents. But again, if there's questions, please let me know. Or feel free to call me. Keep my phone number. That number's direct. I've got voicemail. If I happen to be out of the office, those voicemails become an email. They come out to my cell phone. So if I'm out in the community somewhere, I can still get my messages and I can pull over and call back. If I do call back, sometimes it pops up as a either a restricted number. So if your phone blocks restricted numbers, we might play phone tag for a couple days, but eventually we'll get connected and I'll be able to get you a solid answer. Oh, I'm sorry, this one went so fast.
There's a comment. Great presentation. Can you explain the formula a bit? There's a big misconception that child support is supposed to cover all the custodial's bills.
It is not supposed to cover all the custodial parents' bills. And trying to explain the formula is probably way more complicated than I have all the knowledge on. It's actually a computer software application. It was designed by the federal government. The Social Security Administration is actually the organization that has primary oversight here in the United States for child support law. It covers a lot of factors. It covers the age of the child. It covers the cost of health care or what health care, what the parent the non-custodial parent might be having to pay for health care because as we now know, employment has evolved in Michigan over the last 10 years. As Michigan became more of when Michigan went right to work for employment here with the change in Michigan laws, employees had to pay up to 20% of the cost of their own health care. Adding a child adds a little to that. So this formula, the investigator, facilitator within each of the Friends of the Court in the state of Michigan, they all use the same software developed by the state of Michigan and the federal government. You're plugging in salary or hourly wage for whatever position I'm working. It covers my education, the number of overnights for the child. It's a pretty extensive piece of software. When all these questions are answered and they hit enter, it develops this number. Frankly, I'll be honest, I don't always understand it. And that's why the court has the opportunity for each parent to object. And that's why we have the 21-day objection period. If I disagree with the amount that the system has come up with, I have 21 days to object, and my objection has to be based on some kind of documentation, some kind of proof or evidence. So I could say, well, that's, this software, this calculation is more than I can afford. I have to bring back, I may be bringing in my rental agreement, my lease agreement that shows what my monthly rental fees are. Bring in copies of my check stubs. I might be bringing in a copy of my income tax forms that I submitted for the previous year or the previous 2 years, so that I can give the judge an opportunity to have a better snapshot of my life. If I'm making car payments, again, I have to document all this, and they can recalculate and reconfigure based on some of those factors. So it's not intended to fully cover. I'm not paying all of the other parents' rent. I'm not paying their utilities. Whatever amount my child support order is for can be utilized for that. It can be utilized to buy groceries. She could be paying any one of her bills, could be her cell phone bill. It's absolutely essential that, as the other parent be able to have communication, be able to dial 911 if they need, to be able to call pharmacies and make, to find out if scripts for the child are there. So it's not intended to cover all their expenses, just a reasonable share, so that it's it doesn't fully balance both incomes, but it's intended to make sure that the child doesn't notice a significant change in lifestyle, where if my child is with the mom, that she's got good housing, she's got safe housing, all the utilities work, the landlord's taking care of things. It's to make sure that the child has a good standard of living and in a healthy environment. What else do we have? My contact information. If I could get back to the slide, I will give you my direct dial phone number. In fact, I'll plug it in. 7-483-6456. My direct number to my desk. Places their money into utilities. Questions. Sometimes people would like a system that directly places their money into utilities or rent. The system isn't that good yet. I suspect in time that might be able to be facilitated, but right now the money goes. Once I make a payment, I can make it directly to the Michigan state of Michigan disbursement unit through the Office of Child Support, or I can pay it directly here at the friend of the court. I can pay it online. It gets processed. It goes to a card. I think they're using, well, it used to be a USA Bank card, and then it went to a Relia card, and for the life of me, I don't recall which name of the card they're doing now. But it's kind of like a debit card. So it's automatically credited to the card. The custodial parent can use that card at Kroger to buy groceries. The card can be used to buy gasoline. It can be used at the doctor's office to pay medical copays. It can be used at Myers to buy clothing for the child or any other store. So we haven't gotten to a point where I can specify or make a request that when I make my payment that it goes towards utilities or it goes to some specific bill. Law requiring dads to pay back Medicaid for birth if not married to the mom. Okay. The state of Michigan has a vested interest in making sure, as do all 50 states, that a child is born in a safe, healthy, clean environment. So typically the process, what happens here, we've got two hospitals, we've got Sparrow, we've got McLaren. The mother goes to the hospital. Upon childbirth, each hospital has a number of caseworkers. A caseworker will sit down and with both parents. If I'm there, if I'm actively participating, I'm engaged in the relationship, I'm engaged with my child. Caseworker will interview us. They'll look for health care. Maybe I've got health care through my employer and the mother doesn't. The caseworker will fill out all the documentation. It goes back to Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Hospitals have to have some source of income to be able to keep running, to be able to provide these safe environments for childbirth. Medicaid will kick in if we don't have health insurance and I don't have something that will cover the child. The state of Michigan will ensure that that bill is paid so that we're able to initiate medical care for the youngster. There is it's a nominal fee. Typically, right now, Medicaid is assessed on a child support case at about $21 a month. That payment, so when it becomes part of a child support order, I say I'm paying $150 a month as an example, and $15 to $21 of that will come out and it goes to Medicaid. It helps reimburse that fund so that other parents, that those monies are there to help other families that need it. It's funded out of tax dollars, so it's not a fine, or it's not an unexhaustible resource. That money has to be replenished somehow, and so that's why that nominal fee. Right now it's running between $15 and $21. It's not pro-female, not anti-male experience. In terms of community engagement, that's my job. I do the best I can. I speak with a lot of fathers. I speak with a lot of mothers. I've got fathers that think the system is unfair towards them. I've got moms that say that they don't make enough money. I spend a lot of time, and the caseworkers here within their abilities, when they return these phone calls, they try to explain the system as best as they can. And at any time, either parent can file a motion objecting to something. Typically, you've got 21 days after an order comes out. But if there's a change of circumstance that we talked about earlier, a change in my health, change in my employment, suddenly I've got to move out of state for my employment, something that alters that case, it's really important to re-engage with the caseworker. I've seen the judge grant us the ability, if I get injured and I'm on workman's comp, I can't afford to pay the whole amount, and I've provided all the documentation. The court will work with that and alter the amount accordingly. Gives me an opportunity to be able to pay my own bills while I get back on my feet. And as soon as that happens, then it reverts back to the regular court order. Each parent has the ability to file for a review of the support order every 3 years. So it's every 3 years or a change of circumstances is how often these orders can be reviewed. And a lot of our effort really, I describe the court system, and it doesn't matter whether it's the district court, criminal court, landlord-tenant laws, or child support. I look at the court as being kind of like a helicopter. You see a helicopter fly through the sky. There's about 10,000 moving parts in the average helicopter, and they all have to work together for that helicopter to be able to fly and get off the ground. The court system is equally complicated. There's Michigan court rules, there's Michigan rules of evidence, there's hearsay, I'm not an attorney, and I've been working around these courts since 1975 and in these courts since 1975. And I've got just enough understanding that I can try to make it more easily understandable without throwing out a lot of legal terms. I can speak to the legal terms, but it's about understanding. And this office works pretty hard so that on behalf of our clients, so they understand it. I don't always agree with it, but if I'm answering a direct question for a client, I'm free to tell them, look, I don't fully understand how, but I know enough people here in the court system, between the senior enforcement supervisors, the caseworkers, and the attorney referees, that I can get an answer back out that is understandable. The attorney referees really are, by Michigan law, they are considered administrative law judges. So much like Judge Garcia, Judge Dunnings, Judge Dragonchuk, Judge McCormick, Judge Koenig, a client can't just call the judge directly. The canon of ethics through the legal system, the state bar prohibits that. That's called ex parte communication. So we can't communicate directly with the judge. Even I can't communicate directly with the judge because they are obligated by the law to remain impartial, and that the scales of justice, if one party goes directly to the judge, gives the appearance of impropriety and that it's not fair for the other party that's involved. So the attorney referees have that same balancing act. If I don't understand a legal term, I can go to them and get clarification, but I can't present on behalf of a specific client to them, and because it comes back to that appearance of impropriety. Mom has Medicaid, which is health insurance. It pays for birth. Why does dad have to pay back Medicaid? Because it's not an inexhaustible source of funds. Michigan, here about 15 years ago, is when I first noticed the change in the laws. We couldn't get enough money from the federal government to just provide Medicaid. So they changed the law. They set it up so that the non-custodial parent pays some portion of the child support money each month. A portion of that goes back to Medicaid, so that money goes back into the Medicaid account so that we have funds available to help other families. Children are born every day, and some children have more specific health care needs than others. So to help keep money coming back into that, so we've got money to help everybody, it gets assessed to the non-custodial parent. If dad has insurance through his job and mom has no insurance and uses Medicaid, but dad has to pay the state back Medicaid when it's used, isn't he providing 100% of the insurance? If dad has insurance at the time of the birth, typically the hospital will use dad's insurance. So when my children were born, my wife wasn't working at the time. I had health care through my employer. My health care paid for the childbirth. I had to cover any of the deductibles or any of the co-pays, but my health insurance picked up the rest of that. Now, if I'm not living with my child's mom, that when we talk about the child support formula, when we sit down with the facilitator investigator here at Friend of the Court, I provide a copy of my health insurance card to verify. The system, the child support system, will pick all that up. If I've got health care that covers my child 100%, then sometimes Medicaid isn't needed. But there are times when there's both my health care and Medicaid. We have to remember now that we're in an era where insurance companies call it coordination of benefits. I'm 65, so now I've got Medicare, but I've also got Humana TRICARE through my military retirement. Neither Medicare nor Humana will pick up the full cost. They call it coordination of benefits. Medicare is the primary, and the other will pick up the remaining cost. So if the mother is the custodial parent, I'm the non-custodial parent, I've got health care, and she requires Medicaid. Again, Medicaid typically, or my health insurance would be the primary, Medicaid would be the secondary and the backup. The goal is, even with having both of those, that it's in the best interest of the child. The child doesn't have to worry about are there going to be medical bills that don't get paid, because now you've got two types of coverage. So it's not a matter of whether I think it's fair to me that I've got to pay, $15 or $21 out of my child support money. That portion goes to Medicaid. It's about the best interest of the child and the health of the child. Bring to mind inequities that become apparent when data is pulled. Some dads don't leave court feeling fairly treated by judges. I'll be honest, I don't know too many parents, too many fathers that when they walk out of court do think they were fairly treated. If there's something, they used to do court watch, where citizens would, the courts are public buildings. It's any citizen's free to come in and sit in the back of a courtroom. when they come in and sit down, some member of the staff may make inquiry as to why, are you here for a hearing? No. Are you here for something specific? No, just here to observe. Okay. And the staff member goes on about their way. So the state of Michigan, the Michigan Supreme Court follows the judges' dockets pretty close. And they expect that judges are handling their cases in a timely manner, in a timely fashion. And that's why they ask us when we get there, because if I come in and maybe I've got papers for the judge to sign, I just have this, my attorney asked that I deliver this for the judge to review. They'll say thank you. They'll take the forms. If there's something more specific, we'll have to look at potential types of data gathering to address other issues.
Thank you so much for speaking today. We are out of time for today's session, but he did put contact information in the chat box if you would like to reach out and communicate further, or you can send him a message on the Who Below platform. We hope to see you at our next general session, and thank you again for attending today.
Thank you.